Hi guys. Today I would like to talk about the Book of Abraham again. If you want to know a lot about it, just go to Mormon Stories where John Deline and Dr. Rittner, Egyptologist, talk about it for like 10 hours. Like in detail, I watched every video, like I loved it. And well, it's a lot of time, but it was entertaining and enlightening. But um, just information that I got about this stuff. Recently, I already spoke briefly on that matter, or well, yeah, mostly probably in Russian on my YouTube channel. I'm doubling this video for Instagram. Um, well, recently I spoke to an Egyptologist who studied at BYU, Brigham Young University in Provo. So, um, Egyptologist with the degree from Mormon University. I asked her, I messaged her and said, "Hi, may I ask you a few things about Egypt? You might be the only person that I know who can answer my questions." And she replied, "Hi, sure, I'll do my best. Ask whatever you'd like." Well, I thanked her and then I asked, "Can you tell me what Egyptian gods or gods worshipped by Egyptian demanded human sacrifices? What gods were canopic jars dedicated to? Do those gods have additional names or nicknames?" I have more questions, but I don't want to bombard you with them. She replied, "I can't think of any that demanded human sacrifice, but there is evidence of ritual human sacrifice in ancient Egypt. Um, John Gier wrote an article about it that I can try to track down if you're interested. He's LDS, but that particular article is well received by Egyptologists. Some of the gods were quite bloodthirsty, like Sekhmet, a lioness goddess, but again, I'm unaware of any that demanded human sacrifices. The canopic gods are the sons of Horus, um, Kibesenoef, falcon, Doamutef, jackal, Hapi, baboon, Imseti, human. I don't know about any other names. If you're looking for evidence for or against the Book of Abraham, you've got the wrong person. I specifically avoided studying anything about it. My personal opinion is that Joseph Smith saw the papyri and was inspired with the text of the Book of Abraham. I do not think he translated anything from the papyri. That said, I am very good friends with Kerry uh, Ulstein, who is one of the best experts on the topic. He is an Egyptologist and professor at BYU, and I respect his work even if I don't necessarily agree 100% with his views on the topic. I don't mind answering questions about it. I just wanted you to know where my personal bias is and the limits of my knowledge on the topic. Again, feel free to ask whatever you'd like. I love Egypt and I love talking about it. So I'm happy to answer whatever I'm able to. I just wanted to upfront about how I approach the Book of Abraham. Pretty interesting, huh? Um, so I asked her about if she knows about Dr. Rittner, what she thinks about him. Um, well, she basically said that she doesn't know him personally, but read his stuff. He's a good Egyptologist, and well, that he does have an issue with Mormon Egyptologists, but it's a different story, and she doesn't know much about it, and of course, I know even less about it. Um, so we talked about the Moon Knight TV show, um, and other stuff. Well, back to Dr. Rittner. In Mormon stories or on Mormon stories, he talks about Egyptians sacrificing people or ritually killing them, but not for gods, for creating ghosts. And I read about similar stuff in European practice, I think. Like if there was a new cemetery, um, you needed a ghost to protect it from evil forces or something like that. I read it like 20 years ago. So some like hobo like was murdered there so that there would be a ghost tied to that place. But it was an encyclopedia like, well, yeah, 20 years ago, so I don't remember the details who, when, and why exactly they practiced it, but somewhere in Europe. So maybe Egyptians had similar ideas, like as Dr. Rittner said, like when there was new city, like they needed a ghost to protect it and stuff like that. Um, so what else is there? Yeah, we're talking about ghosts and ritual like killing. Um, she said that like ritual sacrifices would be in the name of preserving order, but I don't know enough about it to say one way or the other. I would trust Rittner on that. So she trusts him. So then there is like random stuff about church, not related to this topic. Um, Talking about situation in Russia, talking about being a tourist in Egypt. I might be there soon. Um, so I talk about not being accepted. Well, talk about being accepted at BYU Idaho or to BYU Idaho, because my English was really good and it was the only test I required. My TOEFL was 103, like 103 score, like points. It it got worse over the years, of course, but anyway. So she showed sympathy for that, but I replied that in a way, well, I was accepted, but I couldn't get the visa. Um, anyway, I replied to her sympathy, saying, in a way, it was a blessing. But a year ago, I spoke to a guy who graduated from BYU Idaho. We talked about facsimile 1. I told him that the priest of Elkanah is almost is most likely god Anubis, but he interrupted me, said that I was fooled by the enemies of the church, and that this person can't be an Egyptian god because Egyptian gods were jars with sand. And, well, she replied, yeah, the facsimiles are an issue. I don't agree with the interpretations, but they aren't important enough to me to walk away. Although looking at them for the first time since I started studying Egyptology was a bit concerning. There are definitely problems. Talking about Russia again, yeah, and then I said um, that the main point, like of me talking about education, is that guy with higher education thought that Egyptians imagined their gods as jars with sand. Um, and that, like I also said that, um, well, I had an issue with them, like meaning facsimiles, um, even before joining the church while I was just studying. But I chose to trust the missionaries. So I laughed at it, and she also laughed at this phrase, like because, like, well, we were stupid. Well, I mean, like new converts, not necessarily this girl. Um, so about the jars and like jars with sand, she said, "Yeah, that's not true. The gods weren't objects. It's sort of like icons in Orthodoxy, though many, though maybe a bit beyond that. The statue wasn't the god, but a representation of the god, but the statues were presented with food and other offerings, which were usually consumed by the priests. And we're talking more about traveling and other stuff. Um, yeah, then like I say that this guy took canopic jars for actual Egyptian gods. He had no idea that jars were for organs. She said, oh my, yeah, that's completely wrong. Not to mention that the lids on the jars changed over time. They didn't always have the heads of the gods. Then I sent her my meme with like mommy, like Imhotep, I think, from the movie Mommy with Brendan Fraser, um, taken to be like, well, Abraham by Mormons. She laughs at that. Then we talk about Mommy trilogy. Well, it's fun conversation, but not related. So I'll talk about Boris Karloff movies and other stuff. And yeah, well, I missed it in the order, like, well, it should have been mentioned earlier, but I missed it when I was rereading it. She also said that those, well, she said that those four gods on the jars didn't have any nicknames. That means, well, the names Joseph Smith gave them are not true, like, because those names didn't belong to those gods. Um, like, she never heard of Reformed Egyptian or god Elkanah outside the church. So, well, she said that um, she believes that Joseph Smith made all those things up, and basically, scriptures for her are just stories with good moral lessons, but not true documents, not something real. Um, but like, well, as you can see, even in the midst of like Mormon culture, Mormon education, person who studies Egyptology understands that Joseph Smith made things up, and none of it has ever been true. So, well, basically that's it. Um, I just would like to add that like Egypt is my like third favorite culture. I mean, ancient Egypt. Like Greeks are my favorite, Romans are my second, and Egyptians are third because they are, well, closely connected to Greek and Roman cultures. And that's why I, well, I think it was so important for me to understand those things, study them, and ask questions. When I just joined the church, I did have an issue with Facsimile 1 because it was stupid. I knew that it was process of mummification, like burial process or something related to it. But I did trust the missionaries because I didn't have friends, and their influence, like, and my desire to have friends, have a community, well, led to the results we have. I did join the church because I trusted those people. And I have no issue with those first missionaries that I met. They were good guys, maybe as fooled as I am, because, well, I also served in the mission. But, well, I believe that when we do learn the truth, we still have to follow the church principle, well, like official church principle, to teach the truth, stick to it. So whenever we find out that something taught by the church is not true, we have to expose it. The church has to be responsible for its words, actions, teachings, and other stuff. They want us to be responsible for all those things. They tell us that we will be judged. So if we will be judged, why they won't be? Why can't an organization be judged? Anyway, I thought I will finish sooner, but I didn't expect to do it so long. Anyway, have a good time.